So here we are with the German Panther, or the Panzer V, and so there's a pretty straightforward build, no major problems with this. Some poor design decisions, though, I do feel, by the company, but I didn't actually have any problems putting it together. So let me go into more detail about everything here. One thing you might run into is right here, the seam between the top and this back plate. I had to use some extra thin cement and hold it together because there was a gap going along. You can see a little bit of a gap right there, actually. I would say that's about it, though. So design-wise, though, the major problem is these tracks. You see, look how messed up they are. And the reason why is this back wheel isn't very wide because it has to clear this wheel, right? So it's a very thin wheel because you don't have a choice. But it just makes the whole track cant inwards. It just looks odd, right? Ideally, they would just stop trying to make toys. This is a model kit, right? But they're trying to make it a toy that rolls for kids. But first, I've heard from a commenter that his models, the tracks, break. You know, because they're rubbery, they're going to crack and just fall apart. So I'm not a fan of that idea. Model kits you spend a lot of time on. And the last thing you want to do is have the thing, you know, fall apart on you after investing so much time. I didn't even spend much time on this, but it still probably took 6 to 10 hours. And this is a pretty crappy paint job. Sorry, is that a swear? I don't think it's a swear. Okay. Yeah, so I weathered the tracks, but these are rubber, so if I touch that, it's gonna flake off. I did clear coat it, but still, nothing really wants to stick to rubber, you know, being a flexible, other than rubbery paint specific for the cause, but I'm not gonna buy that expensive stuff. A couple other tips I would advise is do not glue these parts in, or you're gonna have to paint them before you put them on. But the reason why I don't choose to do that is because this mount here wants to be that brown color, right? So none of these are glued in. And I just sprayed all the brown, and then I took them out, and then I added the paint and the silver details. See, like this is supposed to be brown. Granted, it's rusted now, but hopefully you get the understanding of that. I would also advise that you put all these parts on before you glue it to the bottom, because if something is too loose or too tight, and you run the risk of breaking it when removing it, you know, if this is glued down to the chassis on the bottom, you're never going to be able to access it very easily. This antenna, yeah, this thing fell out during painting. I don't even know if I want to glue it, because, anyways. So I would recommend you don't put those antenna on until you're totally finished with the model. I don't even know if they're supposed to be black. I just stopped caring after learning that these tracks are gonna break. So if you have the time, complain somewhere else on social media for Meng to start making plastic tracks like Trumpeter does on their cartoon. And I think even Tiger Model, which I'll eventually get around to making some of their cartoon tanks. Alright, so the turret itself, as far as articulation goes, it has an angled key here on the turret itself. And then this thing goes up and down a little bit. Only a few degrees, and that's fine. This hatch, if you don't glue it, you can remove it and then twist it out. It's a really tight fit, though. The clear coat's what's keeping it in place, I guess. Yeah, alright. But what's nice is, you know, you can put a figure maybe in there, but that would have to be a pretty narrow-bodied figure, which I don't really have right now, so. But I'm not going to glue it because maybe one day I will. One smart design choice they did make is this cupola here. You don't need to glue this down unless you paint these windows first. Right here at the bottom of this black window is the turret, so it's advisable to paint these sight windows first and then put the cupola down. But again, I put it on and then I painted the camouflage first, and then I removed it, painted the black windows, put it back down, and now it's a perfect break because it literally is a physical break. The decals are fine, no major problems. The decals get wet and come off the paper very quickly. I used some decal adhesive and then I clear coated the whole thing. I have no idea what some of these parts are. Like, what would this be? Please leave a message if you know. This pipe going to that angled box. I also used some AK Interactive Rust oil-based solutions there. Okay, so I guess that's it for that. I also painted all these tracks separately, and after I painted the hull, I pushed them down. They're not even glued in. In fact, on this particular kit, almost nothing was loose. Everything seemed to be almost a perfect fit as far as the tightness of the friction. Nothing felt like I was going to break it, putting it in, and nothing was really difficult to pull out either. So this kit is probably one of the best fitting ones that I've run into. It's just the track is kind of weird. That's it. I always put the little decal thing here so I can remember what the tank is. That's it, I guess. Not much else. I have no idea what this tube is. Please leave a comment. All I know is it's supposed to be open in the front. I don't know if that's supposed to be darkness in there or what. A bunch of, rust streaking. I also had some mud. I forget by who. Maybe Hobby Master. You'll have to watch the video. And then clear coated all of that. So that's it. Let's look at a few other heavy tanks. Oh yeah, sorry. One more thing I have to mention. The hole for this machine gun. First of all, this machine gun is an L shape. There's this and then there's a pin going down. So that hole wasn't open on this hull. So I drilled it out myself. So be mindful, you might have to have a tiny drill bit in order to open up the hole for this machine gun to go vertically down into it. It wasn't a big deal, but if you don't have the drill bits, you're going to find that annoying. Okay, so here we have the very first model kit from these World War Toons, the Tiger 1. And they blend, a lot of these details are molded into the hull. All these details mostly are separate pieces, so they got better obviously as time went by. Here's the Porsche Tiger 1, so a different hull again. No major problems I can recall with that one. But here's another brand with plastic tracks, as you see. So these are trumpeters. Trumpeter doesn't have too many cartoon tanks, but these have string holding all the links together, and there's probably one pin holding this whole thing. And these are never going to crack. They're never going to fall off. And I guess you could still roll it, so it's still a toy. But longevity-wise, I don't ever have to worry about this. So it can be done. Price-wise, it was very similar. So. And then here's another brand. This is like a garage kit. You can look it up on AliExpress. Yufan, Y-U-F-A-N. And this is a Tiger 1, but extremely tuned. It's a whole different deformation. I mean, look how small it is compared to that Meng one. Or Meng. But I love it. I like the deformation of this more than these. But I think that you're probably going to get more detail out of these, possibly, because they're bigger. But I gotta say, for something this small, it does have a lot of molded detail. It's just but this was probably really difficult to put together because it was a garage kit. So it was like hand molded and had a lot of warping and stuff. Where these are molded in steel molds, like real modern products. And so they are much more precise and everything lined up a little bit better. Alright, well anyways, you can look up videos on all these other tanks if you want. And decide if you want to pick them up. But the key thing is these rubber tracks really bother me. But I'm so committed. I only have 3 more tanks left to build in this whole collection. So I already have them. I just gotta get the time to actually build them. So I'm gonna finish this whole collection out at some point, probably in next year, 2025. But anyways, for today, I appreciate you guys watching. And again, for all the World War Toons tanks, this is a well done, well executed mold. That's, I guess, the last thing I'm going to say. Thanks for checking this out. We'll see you around.